attributing traffic to different sources, it can become an infinitely complicated exercise depending on how accurate you want to make your analysis. But there's some simple stuff you can do right at the beginning that I think is actually very useful, and that I think you'll probably find pretty helpful. So let me just show you some of the stuff that we do. Let's see if this works for you, and then if you want to have a further conversation about it, if this is new, I'm happy to chat about it. So the idea of the attribution is basically that if you look at your URL, and so let's say that this is my URL, what you want to do is add some of the attribution parameters after it. And that's what this looks like. So you'd have this, sorry, no, I'm in design mode because otherwise it takes over my whole screen. But here you add this question mark, and that's a signal to it to capture this information. And it has these UTM parameters. So UTM source equals MSBAA, UTM medium, email, UTM ID, campaign. And then what Google will do, because these UTMs are built into Google Analytics, is Google will actually track these things. Now, depending on what analytics package you're using, depending on how you structure your site, you can put all kinds of variables behind this. It doesn't have to just be the UTMs, but the UTMs are kind of where you start. It's a standardized way of looking at this that everybody has kind of implemented thanks to Google. So let me show you how you actually create these. You can come to this Google campaign URL builder. I like this because I'm particularly prone to typos. So this is a great way to make sure you don't do them. And you put in your URL that you want to link to, and then you start putting in these different variables like the campaign ID, the campaign source. This is like really where the traffic is coming from. The medium is this email or a video or something else, and then you can start giving different. You can add more, so you can put in here, campaign name. This is my campaign. Oh, I like to do it without them. So this is my campaign, and then it builds this into the URL, and then you can use this instead of just the standard link that goes to the page. You would use this URL, and it passes the information onto the browser. Now, down below this builder, there's an explanation of how each one of these works and what it's used for. It doesn't actually matter. You can put whatever content you want into these things, but by sticking to the standard ways that they look at it, the reports that Google generates and then kind of the reports that others generate make more sense because you're using the same dimensions when you work on it. Now, campaign source, for example, if you want to, in this case, this is a link that we might send to MSPAA, and they send traffic to us. But you might also put this and say to say YouTube, right? This could be YouTube, and it could be video 5, or this could be YouTube, channel 65. I don't know. Just you can put whatever you want in there. And then video 5, or it could be you could even say description, right? So maybe this is in the description, and maybe there's one that's like in some other part, and you want to know which one has the best click-through rates. So you could separate them out this way. You could then put things in the campaigns. You could leave it YouTube. You could have this video, and then down here in campaign content, which is kind of what you use for A/B testing, you could say description, and then another one might be, and then another link might be title. I don't know. I'm just making this up, but you could put different things in here, and then you will see these come through in your Google Analytics. So this is what it looks like on the analytics side. So you take this, use this as the link, and then you come over here into Google Analytics, and you would look at the different reports. So here we can look at the acquisition reports, and we could look at user acquisition. So if we look at user acquisition, then we can add in here source and use first user source, and then you can see before I was talking about that MSPAA, and you can see that here the source is MSPAA, and the channel for this time period, so I set the time period between November 2nd, December 19th, is email. Now, let's say if it were a blog post and there were a link in a blog post, that would say blog if I updated it that way, and then I could see whether it was coming from MSPAA email or MSPAA blog, and I can definitely see what kind of traffic I'm getting from MSPAA. And so you can start adding different dimensions on here and seeing where the traffic goes. There's a difference between a user and a session. Like I said, you can go down very distinct rabbit holes here that can take you into the depths of understanding conversion analytics. But here, you can look at the same sort of thing. You can look at session source, and then most of the times these are not going to add up. And in this case, if I'm looking at MSPAA, each one sort of had one session, and they came from one place. So it's not necessarily the best channel. I'd like to see more sessions per user. In this case, I had one session per user, so I'm going to have to go back and do something that does tell me something. But you can see here, you can look at the different sessions. You can look at it in different ways. You can also get into events, things like page visit and scrolling and clicking, and then attribute that way. And there are some ways to actually attribute user IDs going through the entire visit. So what's going to happen with the attribution is that it's going to attribute the first time they come into the website, that first page. And then once you make an internal click to somewhere else, you kind of lose that. So there are ways to put a cookie on the computer and then grab that cookie in the next one so you can follow them through. I don't really have that set up here because I don't really need it. I just want to know that top line. But once you start to get into really allocating resources, significant resources to different parts of the website, that can be a very important thing to track. For now, I think just if you have the UTM with the source and the campaign and you see where it's coming in and how many, that's going to tell you where information is coming from, or where traffic is coming from. So the next thing I like to do is then look at, well, if I'm sending traffic to a landing page, I want to capture that in my CRM when people sign up. So I'll use a form. This is ActiveCampaign, and ActiveCampaign is set up very nicely for this. So you can see I have a form here for that page, that SBR page, where people will sign up. You get the first name, email, phone number, and it then has these hidden fields that capture the UTM source, campaign, medium, content. Now, when they sign up, I actually store this in ActiveCampaign so I can see where traffic has come from. When they come to the landing page and they sign up and they fill in the form, now I know where they came from. And what I'll do in ActiveCampaign is, because traffic sources will change and people will come from different places, is I will capture traffic sources there from different forms, and I just create a note automatically. So every time it changes, I capture that note, and then I can see, and it helps me with referrals and affiliate stuff and all that kind of thing. But that's how I capture this on the back end in the form. The other thing that I like to do is we use this program called Market Plan. And so with Market Plan, we'll actually go through and set up the flow of people through the website. And then we can look at each one of these. So if we're doing LinkedIn or a social plan or a blog SEO, you can come in here and set up your UTM links. So I can look here at LinkedIn, and then I can add, by clicking here, I can add a link, edit link, and then I can edit the link with all of the different UTM parameters. It generates the link for me, and then I can put that in my LinkedIn or other places. And then this software will track them coming through the different funnels. So it'll come in here and I can see how many visitors came through here, how many came to my landing page. And then from the landing page, how many clicked through to the quiz. And then from the quiz, how many clicked through. And unfortunately, this is all zeros at the moment because I just set this one up. But you can then see live what's going on, and you can generate statistics based on this. And I find this very useful for understanding how each one of these is working. And again, I'm not necessarily tracking, did they come from LinkedIn and go to the quiz? I'm just saying, did they come from LinkedIn to the BI landing page? Did they go from the BI landing page into the quiz? So this is our business implementers where we help people with virtual assistants. And we have sort of this quiz where people go fill in and you can calculate what the value is of having a virtual assistant and then compare that to the price. So they would come and we can see what the flow has been. It hasn't been good, so that's why I set this up to try and figure it out. But I want to know how many people went from the landing page to the quiz, how many people went from the quiz to the results, and then I can track this all the way through. And I can do the same thing with email. So with email campaigns, I'll put those UTM'd links in the emails, and then I can see whether people click from the email, from my campaign, and then whether I capture that on the back end, and it just gives me all of that information. So just a quick overview of the tools. We've got the campaign URL builder. This is where we actually can create the URL. I also use Market Plan. This is where I map out the whole thing, and then I can create the URL here using this. You can also create the URL in Word or whatever. But since I'm prone to typos, I like the URL builder. And then use analytics. And then in analytics, this is where you can come to user acquisition and you can start defining reports. The simplest way to define a report is you can see this is where the traffic came from, the channel, and then you can add another one such as source, and you can do your first user source, and that's the source of the user. And you can see here, for example, that it came from MSPAA and mail. And you can customize these things. Like you could change this one to source. And this is where, again, it just gets into all this complexity. Medium, session medium, right? So then I can add in the medium and I can say it's Google Organic, MSPAA, email, MSPAA, email with a small e. See, that's where the typo stuff starts to come in. And then I can start separating that out. So those are the tools that I use for this. Let me know if you found this helpful, if this is something you want to explore more, if you need some help with this, just let me know.